Good morning, everybody. So, as Chris said, obviously I work for a technology vendor, but I'm not going to tell you really about our business objects, technologies, and products, and what they do, because we'll be covering that in the technical sessions later, and my two colleagues will be able to do that. So what I'm actually more interested in are what are the business issues that business intelligence tries to solve. A technology that's been around for quite a long time. I've worked in the BI market for about 18 years, and it was certainly going before I started, so it's a long time. It's mature technologies. So, but as you'll see as I go through the presentation, it hasn't perhaps had the impact that I would have expected it to have had perhaps 10 or 15 years ago when I first started out. And what I want to do in this presentation is look at the reasons why that is, look at some of the evidence that supports the fact that this is an area that does support investment and can drive great value in organisations. And you won't be surprised, judging by the titles of the subsections, to know that I firmly believe that a more pervasive use of this technology within organisations is the key to getting the most value out of it. So I don't mean I'm giving away the surprise ending to say that the pervasive business intelligence is a good thing, and one thing that we should probably strive to go, but I want to look at what are the things that we need to get through in order to get to a situation where in our organisation we have a culture of using data and information to support decision making, because that ultimately will lead to optimum performance, and this is something we need to do more of. So we believe that probably the biggest challenge strategically that organisations face today is a gap that we see between the world of strategy, the world of decision making, and the world of execution, where frontline staff make and do the things that drive the services that we provide to our citizens and people who receive our services. There is a big gap, and this is not a private sector thing, this is a world thing, this is everything that suffers from. Typically strategy is made at the senior level of the organisation, and that strategy is being built without enough information, if you like, about what's going on down here to make good, correct and accurate decisions. At the same time, we typically see that organisations struggle to communicate their strategy to frontline staff. So people down here are working away, doing their day job, but they really don't understand what are the broader strategic impacts of the things that they do. And ultimately, business intelligence technology can help close that gap. It can help, if you like, provide context to strategic decision-making body. At the same time, it can be used to help communicate and drive information down into the frontline staff. And that we call kind of gaining strategic alignment, if you like, within the organisation. So getting everybody moving off in the same direction, which hopefully is, of course, the right direction. And that's backed up on all sorts of surveys that have been done around the world. The classic one is this middle one here, which is 90% of organisations fail to execute their strategies effectively. So they might be coming up with some great ideas, but they're not effectively doing them. That's an ongoing problem that happens all the while. 95% typical workforce does not understand what its organisation strategy is, which is a bit of a scary statistic. Classic lack of information means that 77% of people are aware of making bad decisions just because of sheer lack of data to help them make those decisions. And perhaps one that maybe we won't be able to fix is this: 90% of employees think they're in the top 10% performers. So there's no sort of malice going on down here at the frontline staff. They all think they're doing a great job. It's just that only when it rolls up into the sort of corporate goals do we see that there are some issues to solve. So we have that, but there's also another aspect, I think, to decision making as well. And perhaps and we're surrounded here by the financial services industry, are the greatest case study that we have now, if you like, for industries that chase opportunities and look for, in their case, making profitable decisions without balancing that decision making with a view of the risks that they're undertaking. So we know, I think, and we've seen it, daily on the news, the problems that the financial services industry went through by chasing profit, by creating such complex financial instruments, so they were completely unaware of the kind of risks that were being potentially exposed to. So whenever we're making decisions and using information, we have to, of course, as a business, chase the opportunity. The opportunity varies from organisation to organisation, from department to department. It could be be looking for cost savings, it could be looking for the right areas to make cuts, but it's the opportunity that we have in order to make our business better and more efficient. But you have to balance it with some kind of what-if analysis around what are the risks involved in making those particular decisions that I'm about to take. What will happen if, I cut staff by 10 or something like that. And if we just chase the opportunities, then of course we expose ourselves to risk. But of course, if we only focus over here, then we probably would end up doing nothing at all. So we do have to maintain the right balance, if you like, between looking for opportunities and looking for risks. And I'm going to pick a private sector organisation as an example of a company that has built risk analysis, if you like, into their BI solution, because I thought it was a nice story, even though it's not necessarily relevant to anybody probably in this room, unless there is anybody from an organic dairy cooperative. No, I didn't think so. So, well, maybe something for the future. But Organic Valley are a large organic dairy cooperative in the United States, made up of about 1,000 farms, so quite a complex business. They came to a point that drove their decision to invest in business intelligence technology, was the fact that people were turning up at board meetings with different information, different data, and this is a classic business problem that organisations see the world over. We all turn up to meetings with our own spreadsheet and they all say something different. And that happens inevitably in any organisation where we have silos of information, we have a sort of departmental focus on data, and we're running our business on spreadsheets and Excel database, and that's what happens. So they made a kind of strategic decision, said, you know what, we're going to get rid of this, we're going to have a proper information system within our organisation. They invested in data integration and data quality, invested in business intelligence tools. Obviously, you'll know who Fed was, I wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't something close to my heart. But what they've done is that they've put a lot more information to the system than just financials, if you like. They're using it to manage their risk, and they measure the quality of milk at something like about 39 points in the supply chain, from the cow right through to the carton that's delivered onto the retail shelves. So you can imagine, as an organic food provider, any kind of food sort of scare and an issue would be a major problem for their organisation. So they're measuring that data, they're capturing the information on the supply chain. So if anything should happen, for example, they find there's a contaminant in a batch of milk, they can very quickly identify where the problem is, which cartons are going to be affected, which shops are being affected, and do kind of one of those kind of big recall situations very, very quickly. And BI can give them visibility of that risk information instantaneously at the press of a button, really, rather than kind of scrabbling around trying to collate that information. And as you know, when these sort of situations get out of control, they can very quickly become major issues. But they also share best practice amongst all the different farms as well. They provide each farmer with performance management reports to show how they're performing compared with farms of a similar ilk, similar size, and livestock comparison. So they're actually sort of benefiting the organisation as a whole by sharing this information about best practice. It could be that certain feed mixtures are working better on one farm than another. That information shared across the farms enables them to improve the yield of all of the farms. So there's a benefit of sharing information. And again, that's a great, and I think a classic lesson that I think many organisations can learn. We're often wrapped up in our silos of information, but we have data that we can share with other departments. We have data that can be shared with other agencies as well, that could help us all work more effectively and more efficiently. And I'll come back to that as well, because I think one of the greatest opportunities that we have in the world of business intelligence going forward is the sharing of information as opposed to just the using of information. So there's more detail there, I won't go on. So we can kind of bring all this into sort of I suppose what these things they call a virtuous circle, really, where we can balance both the strategy, the execution, the risks, and feed all that back into a loop to help us make, if you like, better and confident decisions. And to do that, we think we need really a number, I think, of sort of broad pillars that can be provided, if you like, to improve and deliver that. One is easy access to trusted information, so good quality, accurate information that the business can use effectively to improve decision making. And we'll have a breakout later on that just goes into that area in a little bit more detail. I've spoken about building in risk-adjusted decision-making, if you like, into the sort of DNA of business intelligence. And then the final bit, and this is what really interests me the most, I think, today, and I'll spend most of the rest of the presentation talking about, is enterprise visibility, getting information out to everybody in the organisation who's making decisions. How can we do that, and what are the sort of barriers that prevent us from doing it? Because, as I say, if this market, this technology has been around 18 or 20 years or so, you'll see in a later slide that it hasn't actually been quite as effective as perhaps we hoped it would have been. I'm going to do data first, though, and this is a little subset of something that we'll cover in more detail later, because for me, this is the most fundamental part of any decision-making system, any business, whatever you call it, management information, business intelligence, I don't care. Data and the quality of data is fundamental to success of these things. We are, I say we, collectively, again, this is all organisations, wasting huge amounts of money papering over data quality cracks. It's historically and traditionally has never really been addressed by many organisations at all in any kind of strategic way. These are US numbers, but you can see the majority of organisations spend at least $5 million annually just fixing data quality problems. That can be duplicates in your address database, which means that you're contacting citizens multiple times. It could just be that you're invoicing incorrectly and that's bouncing things around the finance department. Whatever it is, a huge amount of time and effort is wasted on it. Everybody knows that data quality is really important. That's the great thing. It's like, nobody will argue that says and tell you that it's not an issue, but we sort of pretty much fail to really do anything about it. And probably the single biggest roadblock here is the fragmentation that organisations inevitably, we almost create deliberately, through our departments, and we do it in our kind of political structures as well. We create fragmentation, both internally and externally, and then that's actually usually the first cause of data quality issues. So we think it's strategic, but typically we only ever deal with data quality tactically. We only ever fix it one application at a time, one department at a time. Somebody gets so fed up with it that they go and fix it where it, and again, maybe not putting any kind of processes in place to actually fix it.